I will start by, on a personal basis, acknowledging that we're meeting on the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and particular honour to any people of Aboriginal heritage who are joining us in this meeting today, particularly people from stolen generations. We are being honoured by having a formal welcome to country by Greg Madden, who's part of the very important Madden family of Aboriginal elders from the Metropolitan Council. Craig Madden is taking the place of his father, Uncle Chicka, who inadvertently had another... Oh, he was sick. Not well today, so Craig's stepping in on his behalf. And it's the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, so I didn't actually call that proper name. So without more ado, welcome Craig.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Good evening, or good day, everybody, I should say. My name is Craig Madden. And look, firstly, I'd like to thank Russell and the Senior Rights Service for inviting me down here to welcome you onto country today. I am standing in for my father who's unwell, so bear with me. I'm a proud Bundjalung Gadigal man from the Eora Nation, and Gadigal land is the land that we're standing on here today. Jinyura Gadigal, this land, this place is Gadigal. It's customary for Aboriginal people to invite guests or visitors onto our land or country. That's a custom that we've been doing for thousands of years. So as a representative of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council and a proud Gadigal man, I'd like to welcome you all onto Gadigal land, Aboriginal land. I'd like to pay my respects to our elders, past, present and emerging. To any Aboriginal brothers and sisters here today, if you have any brothers and sisters from the Torres Strait Islands, welcome to Gadigal land. To all our non-Aboriginal brothers and sisters here today, a warm and sincere welcome to Gadigal land, Aboriginal land. The Gadigal clan is one of 29 clans which make up the Eora Nation. It's a nation that's bound by 3 distinct landmarks. So we have the Hawkesbury River up to the north, the Nepean River out to the west, and the Georges River down to the south. Within the confines of those mighty rivers lie the Eora Nation. And the land that we stand on of the Gadigal people is one of the 29 clans of that nation. If you have any guests who travel from across the seas today, if you've travelled from across our great country, great state of this magnificently beautiful city that certainly has turned it on for us today, welcome to Gadigal land, Aboriginal land. Look, it's so important for organisations to have a reconciliation action plan. It's also extremely important for organisations who contribute and drive their reconciliation action plans in our communities. Supporting organisations, developing relationships and creating meaningful opportunities for Aboriginal people. I mean, I've always said that the two contributing factors to us having a sustainable future as Aboriginal people has always been education and employment. And, you know, I guess with a good rap, that certainly allows our mob to be able to fulfil certainly the latter part, which is employment. So I commend you on having a reconciliation plan. It is a difficult space that you work in. I was talking to Meewa before about some of the issues that you guys have to deal with on a regular basis. So I commend the work that you do, because I know it's work. I work within the justice system myself, and you know, we get the fallout of some of the unfortunate incidences that you guys have to see every day. So it's certainly heartwarming to see the people here today. Congratulations on your reconciliation plan. Hope everything goes well for the launch today. And once again, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Just giving Craig a thank you. And of course, Uncle Chicka, Craig's father, comes to a lot of SRS events, and we very much appreciate both their time. Now I'm going to hand it back to Margaret Duckett, who's going to give an introduction to Maureen Walsh, one of our previous board members, and who led the and chaired the Aboriginal Reconciliation Action Plan. And we're just shuffling things around a little while we wait for Linda Burney to arrive. Thank you.
I've known Maureen for about 40 years and been involved in a number of activist, trying to work out what's a nice way to, campaigns perhaps is the right word for that, where we've been worked together on a number of policy options covering a whole wide range of issues. I was very thrilled some 3 years ago when I caught Maureen in a weak moment and she agreed to join the Board of Directors for Seniors' Rights Service. And she brought an absolute wealth of knowledge and skills and ability to work with others to achieve important ends. And she brought that knowledge particularly in the last year where she took our reconciliation action plan through to completion. We'd worked on it in total some 3.5 years, and it had been discussed within the staff of SRS in detail for a couple of years. Then another board director had taken on the chair of that RAP and took it through to a first draft stage. But, sorry, I should have checked the microphone height, sorry. But Maureen really added to making it real, making it specific recommendations that would work for Seniors' Rights Service, that would embed the issues that we needed to address for Seniors' Rights Service. I have a sort of formal little introduction I might read to you that Maureen's former board member and chair of our Reconciliation Action Plan Advisory Group. She's willing to acknowledge she has wide experience working in the private sector, trade unions and in state and Commonwealth public services. Long-time member and delegate to many organisations, including New South Wales Local Government Aboriginal Network. And as I've said, Maureen's guidance for the development of our Reconciliation Action Plan has been invaluable. We thank her for sharing her knowledge, her dedication and her leadership. And I must say, when Maureen decided that she'd put in enough energy and she was going to resign from the board, I have never seen such strong sorrow expressed by every single other board director at losing Maureen from our board. She had played an invaluable role in bringing her insight and knowledge and calm advice of how to address a range of problem areas. She was a real loss to our board. We're in the process of trying to identify a couple of other suitable board directors who also bring the added benefit of lived experience of Aboriginal heritage. But it's going to be really, really hard to replace Maureen. I commend her to you and she can speak about the details of the Reconciliation Action Plan process. Thank you.
I can only say thank you to Margaret Duckett for all those very, very nice and I would normally think very undeserved words, but I accept them. It's very nice to hear that. And I was so looking forward to hearing Linda Burney speak before I had to say anything. My intention when asked to speak was to do what I thought I should do, and that is thank everybody involved in this process. Before doing that, I do want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land on which we stand, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past and present and future peoples of this land. I have written down some notes because I was contacted by Jane Snyder to say, what are you going to say? And I thought I was only saying thank you, essentially. But I will talk about the ongoing preparation of the RAP, the Reconciliation Action Plan for the Seniors' Rights Service has extended for a period of over 3 years. Yes, thank you. A draft was submitted very early. While there was some input to it, it took us a little by surprise. But the good thing was we had a draft plan that we could begin work on. I acknowledge the content of the long, hard work, thought embedded in this plan. It's due to the commitment of highly motivated staff, and this would not have happened without the staff of Seniors' Rights Service and the board of SRS. The process was driven by the chair of the board, Margaret Duckett, who is absolutely fervent in pushing that this RAP should be in place, that consultations, that development of staff should take place so that understanding of cultural Aboriginal knowledge is thoroughly understood by staff and people working within the community, including the board, to undertake this. CEO Russell Westcott is also, and former chair Craig Gear were also very essential in the process. The underlining basic background and staff surveys were initiated by Tom Cohen, who's sitting up there at the back very quietly, and with endless input by Pat Joyce, Jane Polkinghorne, later on Jane Snyder, Jennifer, forget surname, I'm sorry, Diana Bernard, Mary Hawkins, Nalika Padmasena, Tammy Caban and Liz McIntyre. And the very efficient Christine I, who I can't see here today, but anyone who has anything to do with Seniors' Rights Service would be aware of Christine I, who is the company secretary amongst many other roles. And without Christine, I don't think the work would take place. Why do we need a RAP? Ideally, it should not be needed in Australia, but as everyone knows, the Indigenous gap in all areas of need is very evident. The funded SRS legal and advocacy skills are needed in Indigenous communities in New South Wales. This especially applies to the elderly, which is the Seniors' Rights Service brief. And in saying that, we attended the Aboriginal Olympics, it was called, at Port Macquarie, and SRS had a tent up there. And to Tammy Caban and I and Liz McIntyre were up there. One of the areas of surprise when we put pamphlets on the tables, talking beforehand, we thought, the wills people won't be very interested in this. They happen to be the pamphlet in most need that people picked up immediately and were extremely interested. To me, from my background, I find that very interesting. It's nothing that my family would have picked up as something of need, but certainly amongst the women, older women, they were picking up this need. They recognise that you need to do something about your property, if you have property, and what little you have to distribute later on, so everybody's quite clear. With offices in Western New South Wales, the North Coast of Wollongong, SRS is committed to providing these services throughout New South Wales. The employment of Aboriginal people is a high priority in the RAP. All position vacancies are to be advertised in the Courier Mail and local papers so that applications can be received. I would also hope that we also contacting local Aboriginal communities when positions are available, and that somehow or other we get an index for that. It's not in the RAP at the moment, but it's something I'd like to see there. And maybe people today can give their addresses or emails where that can happen. Dedicated positions and traineeships for Aboriginal people are also being considered, especially young people. In 2001, it was stated that the need was to promote a continuing national focus for reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. The RAP, this RAP develops a business plan that documents the actions that will be taken to contribute to reconciliation in Australia. The RAP has incorporated these concepts clearly into the plan. It is very much about culture, the need to appreciate views while walking in others' shoes. An illustration of this difficulty was experienced many years ago by my needing to contact a family grandmother of the expected passing of her 16-year-old grandson in intensive care. In the days before mobiles, this required a phone call to local police station so that the message could be delivered to the grandmother. The call elicited a very long and totally unnecessary interrogation of the real status of the grandmother. Was she maternal? Was she paternal, etc.? I hope this derogatory questioning of culture is better understood today. Mick Dodson has said regarding reconciliation, in this role, my wish is to build our understanding of what it means to protect the rights and human dignity of all Australians. Upholding human rights is about looking out for each other, taking the idea of fairness seriously. It goes to the heart of who we are as a nation. This is a living document. It will continue to grow and it needs ongoing work. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. So we, as I mentioned before, we've just reshuffled things around a little bit. It was great to hear from Maureen, who has been an excellent board member, and I just wanted to congratulate Maureen because I know as my role of CEO, it was great to see that you displayed so much leadership in getting the Reconciliation Action Plan together and to a point where we can be releasing it today. And also to a point where we can have the Honourable Linda Burney make an address. And the Minister has arrived after a short delay. Sorry, the shadow. Sorry for that little faux pas. I would like to welcome our keynote speaker for today, the Honourable Linda Burney MP. As a proud member of the Wurundjeri Nation, Linda was the first Aboriginal person to be elected to the New South Wales Parliament and the first Aboriginal woman to serve in the Australian House of Representatives. She began her career as a teacher in Western Sydney and then as an education bureaucrat before being appointed Director General of the Department of Aboriginal Affairs in 2000. She is now the Shadow Minister for Indigenous Australians, Shadow Minister for Families and Social Services and Member for Barton. We are honoured to have her here today. In fact, we are extremely honoured to have her here today and to launch our Reconciliation Action Plan. Ms. Burney will be taking questions after speaking, and I would just like to give a very warm, heartfelt introduction to Ms. Burney. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Russell, for that introduction, and I was so pleased to hear Maureen's speech. I tell you what, this place isn't a bloody difficult spot to find with all the changes around the city. I think Maria and I drove around here about 3 times, so I'm sorry we're a little bit late. And no, my arm's not broken, but I do have a very tender rotator cuff injury, so I'm only wearing the sling so people don't shake my hand off, really. So thank you very much, and once again, I'm sorry I'm late. Can I, of course, begin, I'm sure as Maureen and others have begun, by recognising country and recognising that we are on Gadigal land. And also I understand that Susan Ryan was going to come but's not been able to make it, but we say hello to her in her absence. To Margaret as well. How are you? Haven't seen you for some time. To Russell, thank you for the welcome. And to Maureen, whom has been such an important part on my understanding, Maureen, in terms of developing the Reconciliation Action Plan. And also to I think Tom Cohen has also been very influential as well. Where are you, Tom? Thank you so much for all the work that you've done. And I am very happy to take some questions, of course. Can I say that listening to Maureen's speech was really important. The importance of involving local communities and local community organisations in whatever pursuits that we take, and to also to be able to walk in others' shoes, I think is one of the greatest lessons ever for any of us. That idea of walking in other people's shoes is something that I've spoken about on many occasions, including my first speech to the New South Wales Parliament. And I took the lesson from To Kill a Mockingbird, because that's what really that book was about. What a great lesson to have. To other First Nations people here, I recognise you and say good morning as well. You know, everyone, reconciliation is about many things. But for me, reconciliation is not about a destination. It's actually a journey. And it's the journey, I think this is what Maureen was saying, it's actually the journey that's important, the things that you gather, the things that you share, the things that you participate in on that journey. And really, in many ways, this Reconciliation Action Plan for this group is a great part and a great step on that journey. And I think that's what Maureen was saying, is that it's a living document. It's a document that will change, and it will change as you achieve the goals of this action plan. You'll move on to the next level, and then eventually, I think it's stretch, which is the big one. But it's just wonderful, and I want to congratulate SRS for taking this very meaningful and this very lasting change, because you are so important to the most important people in our community, and that is senior people. And certainly from an Aboriginal worldview, as I'm sure you've been shared with, it's our elders, it's our senior people that are just so crucial to not only where we are now, but reminding us that you are a sum of the past, and that if we in this country forget our past, then we are really doing a disservice to so many people. It seems to me that the other part of what today is about is really fulfilling one of the 3 goals of the Uluru Statement. The first was the entrenchment of a First Nations voice in the Australian Constitution. I notice our Prime Minister has a slightly different view at the moment, but we'll work on that. The second is, of course, the establishment of a Makarrata Commission, which would oversee the goals of treaty and agreement making, and that's something that we should embrace as a nation. Many of these things already exist. They're just not called treaties, they're called something else. But the third part of the Uluru Statement is very much about our endeavours here today. The third part of the Uluru Statement was a national process of truth-telling. And isn't that what this action plan is about? It's about, and I've read it, it's about working with local organisations. Within your action plan, you've identified a number of potential local partners, and you can't go past the list that's actually in there at the moment. And I know many of those organisations personally. But it's also about expanding your own thinking, your own goals as an organisations. But I would say as individuals went as well. A woman came in to see me. She was a constituent of the great seat of Barton. I love being the member for Barton. I mean, Barton was one of the architects of the White Australia policy. It's just too good, isn't it? It's just too good. The woman came in to see me, and, you know, you could say, well, it's 30 minutes of my life I'll never get back. But it was very important for her. She wanted to talk to me as a First Nations person. She wanted to know more, and she wanted to know what is it that she could do personally. And my simple answer to her is be informed. That is what you can do personally, and take that information forward with you on your life's journey. And that's what this plan is really actually about. So think of it as a journey. Think of it, as Maureen said, as a living document, but also be incredibly proud that SRS as an organisation has taken this step, which is a very definitive step, Russell, a very definitive step in terms of making this place a much better place than it was before the action plan. Because really, what other goals should we have in life but to leave the planet just a little bit better than the way that we found it? And I wish everyone thought like that. But that's sort of, to me, really what life's about. It's about walking in other people's shoes, but it's also saying that that my time on this blue planet will mean that this blue planet is a little bit better for my being here. So congratulations. The RAP is a really important step in maturing, in growing, and in being, as you are, a rights organisation. It's just so very important. I'm very happy, Russell and Margaret, to be part of launching your RAP today. Congratulations, everybody.
Thanks so much, Linda. That's we really appreciate those words. Before I move on and just hand it over to Dr. Elizabeth McIntyre, I did just want to tell what I thought was a bit of a cute story. About a year ago, I was in Parliament House and had a meeting with Minister Wyatt, and outside that room was the portrait of Linda Burney. And it had only been unveiled the day before. And I was admiring it. And while I was admiring it, Linda Burney came up and stood next to me. And I turned around and I said, congratulations, congratulations. And there was a colleague who was with me sort of hovering around, not from this organisation, I have to hasten to add. But the colleague said, because I was congratulating Linda, the colleague said, "Oh, are you the artist?" Do you remember that? Anyway, it's a little bit of an embarrassing moment, but I'm pleased to say the colleague doesn't work for Seniors' Rights Service. Anyway, now I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Elizabeth McIntyre. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, I do apologise. Did anybody have questions for Linda? Linda.
The last time I saw our esteemed Prime Minister giving a welcome acknowledgement of country, he tied it in with the veterans.
Veterans, yeah.
Which I just had a moment over it, and I thought to myself, you could have done veterans, acknowledgement first and veterans later. It just to me was such a disrespectful act. And as a proud Aboriginal woman, and Ken Wyatt being a proud Aboriginal man, what did the two of you think when that happened?
I've only just heard about it and I've never witnessed it. And it to me, and I'm not making any reflections, and obviously the issue of veterans is incredibly important. But I think, and I'm sure Maureen and others would agree with me, that an acknowledgement of country should stand on its own, because it's a very different thing to recognising veterans. Interestingly, I went to the is it Lidcombe where that terrible train disaster was about 20 years ago? Granville, to the Granville Memorial a couple of years ago, and the then Mayor of Parramatta Council tied her acknowledgement into the settlers as well, which I thought was bizarre. But, it says to me that they're not comfortable. That's what it says, and probably playing a big political game. But just for everyone's information here, I am Wiradjuri, as Russell said, so I can't do a welcome to country. It's only people, as you know, from that particular area that can actually do a welcome to country. But any of us, and this is what's so fantastic about acknowledgement, it's any of us in this room, no matter what our background and who we are, can all do that acknowledgement. And it's a very precious thing. And it's also a really important thing for First Nations people to hear. I know when I go to an event, that's what I listen for. And I know if I hear it, then they get it. Is there any other quick... And hello to everyone that's watching on streaming. Anyone else? Yes.
I was wondering if you'd like to comment on the extent to which the Aged Care Royal Commission has looked at issues for elder Indigenous people. Yeah.
So Julie Collins is the shadow spokesperson, as you know, for older people. And so I have to say that I've been following it, but not terribly closely, and I don't think I'm qualified to make a comment. But I have noticed that there is a fair bit of discussion about delivery of services to First Nations people. And I have to say, everyone, I've just done a fair bit of road travel, and I am really worried about delivery of packages, and I noticed that was on the news the other night. Delivery of, packages per se, but also particularly to regional and remote communities. I was listening to, I'm not sure who was speaking, but they were basically saying that there's almost no packages being delivered to remote Australia, which is to me is very much a workforce issue. And it made me, when I was reading your Reconciliation Action Plan, I actually thought of that, because you're talking about developing partnerships, particularly with AMSs in Aboriginal Medical Services. And to me, that is the strong network across the country. And if it's an issue of capacity building, both for NDIS and for aged care packages, I think that's a very good place to start. One more? Yes, there's one up the back. I can't see that far.
I just wanted to put forward a couple of suggestions for seniors or pensioners. One is the Opal card. Previously, since they've done the last update for the pricing increase, it used to be that you had 8 trips a week and then the rest were free. Now there's no free trips. So a pensioner who travels, say, 7 days has got an increase of $7.50, which is very outstanding to me. The second one is I believe that all pensioners or anyone in hardship should be put on the electricity nighttime rate, and therefore that would enable him to save a lot of money on that because it's going up so quick.
Thank you very much. I'm not able to respond individually because I'm in the federal parliament, and they are obviously issues to do with the state government, and I think Russell said he'll respond. But the issues that I just take 2 seconds. So the issues I'm dealing with federally as the shadow for social services is this idea of increases to New Start, but also I think that we need to look at the aged care sector, and particularly in terms of continuing to protect the energy supplement, which is under threat. We will continue to not have the age for the pension go up to 70. And obviously there's some issues around self-funded retirees and so forth. I don't think you'll see Labor bring any policies back that are detrimental to seniors after this review tomorrow.
Okay. Great, thanks again. And I'll just a very quick response to those 2 comments made. Seniors' Rights Service is a statewide service, so we do lobby both federal and state government. We're fully aware of the erosion of benefits, if you like, for older people living in New South Wales, and we do take those issues up to government on a fairly regular basis throughout a variety of different ways. So we'll move on with the meeting, and I'd like to welcome Dr. Elizabeth McIntyre. Elizabeth is a criminologist as well as a mental health and disability social worker in criminal justice. Elizabeth is a Wurundjeri and Wanari woman. I hope I got...
Wanarua.
The Wanawira, I do apologise, through bloodlines, and her country spans Port Stephens, Great Mile Lakes, Barrington Tops and the Hunter Valley of New South Wales. Beautiful areas, I've got to say. She's the Aboriginal official visitor of prisons statewide and the New South Wales Inspector of Custodial Services and a member of the New South Wales Mental Health Review Tribunal, conducting civil and forensic hearings. In addition to this work, Elizabeth guides a number of professional associations, including Seniors' Rights Service, and it's a pleasure been working with Elizabeth for the last 18 months or so. She has been our Aboriginal consultant over the last 18 months, and she will be taking about her work with us today. Thanks, I'll hand over.
So Anagunja, a very good afternoon to everybody. Thank you, Craig, for your very warm welcome to country this morning. I know that he had to leave doing other work, and Mr. Craig Madden. And I bet you, please don't feel too sorry for me having to go after 2 very inspiring and accepting Aboriginal women that we have here. And thank you, everybody, Margaret and Russell. Yes, I am a Worimi and Wanarua through bloodlines. And I belong to country that does span Newcastle, Port Stephens, the Great Mile Lakes, Barrington Tops and the Hunter Valley. I therefore pay my deepest respects to the Gadigal First Nations people who occupy this land and the waterways on this area of the eastern coast of the state. As chair of Minderibba Local Aboriginal Land Council that covers the Hunter and Maitland, and just been reappointed to the board only on Monday night, I want to acknowledge Metro Local Aboriginal Land Council who have cultural obligations and responsibilities to protect and care for these vast lands and waters. I honour all First Nations people here today, and in particular the elders who, as we know, are our greatest teachers, and they hold a significant place and an essential role in Aboriginal communities. May we also reflect on those Aboriginal people who are not physically with us today because they may be doing great work with our creator beings or may be unwell, recovering, or indeed imprisoned across this state. To the non-First Nations people who today, and most importantly to the Seniors' Rights Service professionals, in particular Diana, who can't be with us personally, I say thank you. I say thank you for your commitment to embrace your Reconciliation Action Plan and for your intent to continue building on the relationships now established with Aboriginal elders and senior people and Aboriginal-led organisations so that they can grow into meaningful, trusted, respectful and long-lasting partnerships. When I was first asked to assist Seniors' Rights Service by then President Craig Gear, when Craig and I were frequenting prisons as we do, and the present Chief Executive, Russell, I had no idea who Seniors' Rights Service was or what advocacy service were provided for seniors living in this state. And I thought, well, if I don't know, there wouldn't be many other Aboriginal people that knew. And it was these two non-Aboriginal men that were very honest in telling me that not a lot of Aboriginal elders and senior people actually access the services. So their honesty was, I was able to see, though, that they were strongly committed to working differently and respectfully with Aboriginal communities to ensure that elders and senior people were comfortable in accessing support and advocacy services and that their experience was a positive one so that Aboriginal people would come to Seniors' Rights Service as needed. I'm now at a stage in my career where I choose to do work that's transformational and has the most positive impact on the lives of Aboriginal people, families and communities. And I also choose to work with people that are genuine and want to work collaboratively with me to make this happen. My decision to assist Seniors' Rights Service better engage with and support Aboriginal elders and senior peoples and communities has been a good one. And it's evidenced by their actions to date, such as the service being a major sponsor of the statewide Elders Olympics, which Advocate Tammy and Maureen attended in Port Macquarie earlier this year, and Advocate Chanel, who travelled 6 hours from Dubbo to Walgett and returned to deliver many containers of fresh water to a town that has run dry. Have we got a picture of Chanel up there? So what is reconciliation? I've been given permission to use the words of Virginia Robinson, who's an elder, leader, lawyer, and the secretary of the Dharawal Elders Group in Walgett, a far remote Western New South Wales town. A town with a 24-hour police station worth $16 million, but no mental health and wellbeing centre, and a high school where 100% of the students are Aboriginal young people. The Dharawal Elders are a strong and inspirational team of advocates and agitators, many who are grandmothers and grandfathers, great-grandmothers, great-grandfathers who have lived all their days on Gamilaroi country and are now growing old with country. Aunt Virginia says that, in its broadest sense, reconciliation means coming together. We got a photo of Auntie Virginia? In Australia, reconciliation refers to bringing together Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islanders and other Australians. Reconciliation is not something that one decides to do. It is a process, at the end of which there may be reconciliation, but this can never be guaranteed. Reconciliation has elements of truth and justice and forgiveness, healing, reparation and love. Supporting reconciliation means working to overcome the division, which is often called the gap, and inequality between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people. For the Dharawal elders, those differences are biggest in health and income, living standards and life expectancy, but also prejudice and racism. I'm very honoured and excited to be part of this day that Virginia has turned coming together. I ask that the great ancestral creator beings who are with us always, guiding, protecting, show us how to have that deeper level of relatedness, caring and love for one another. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the speakers. I think we should all put our hands together again. Very inspirational. And again, I just want to make the remark that it's been a pleasure working with all of you in various capacities, and we thank you so much for being connected to our organisation. And before I close with the speaking and we'll break for lunch, I just want to commend the Reconciliation Action Plan, and thanks for all your help and input. Thank you.